Hi, I want to talk a bit about the BBC and some of the things going on at the BBC right now. Let me just start with a sort of prefix. The BBC is a huge organisation. It's the world's oldest broadcaster, and it remains one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in terms of numbers of employees and its overall outreach. Um, I am not among those who wants to completely dismantle the BBC. I still believe that the BBC has world-class documentaries, and I still think it has some very good output, notwithstanding some of the very obvious woke politics that have infiltrated the BBC in recent years. And I think, given it quite a negative perception of left-wing bias, although that's not entirely a new thing, to be fair. So the BBC has just appointed a new Director General, Tim Davie. He's certainly got his work cut out for him. It's a very powerful position when you're essentially the manager, for want of a better term, of such a big broadcaster. Um, Remember, there is something to consider here. The BBC has many different departments. So there's BBC News, there's BBC Online Services, iPlayer, and so on. Um, And unless I'm mistaken, there's a fair amount of independence between those different departments. Nevertheless, I think that the organization as a whole, the institution as a whole, um, is in a serious situation right now of public discontent. There are a lot of people who still support the BBC because they see it as a useful bulwark against the Murdoch empire, particularly Sky News and other outlets. But I think the BBC needs to really have some humble pie and have a good reflection on itself. And right now, there is some indication that they're not doing anywhere near enough to confront that. Now, I've just looked at an article in the Daily Express, and granted, that's a conservative tabloid. It's going to be critical of the BBC, but you can find other sources for this. And it's talking about how the top stars are getting pay bonuses. Okay, so they quote Zoe Ball. Her salary is 1.36 million. Graham Norton, 725,000. Hugh Edwards, 465,000. Fiona Bruce, 450,000. Lauren Laverne, 395,000. I know all those people except Lauren Laverne. Um, Now, when it comes to salaries, there's a whole debate around whether someone's workload, whether their star quality, there's a whole lot of factors in determining a salary. Um, if you are a primetime news anchor, I can see the justification for getting quite a big salary. But all those salaries are higher than the Prime Minister, incidentally. The Prime Minister's salary, unless I'm mistaken, is 250,000. And bear in mind, he has the responsibility of running a nation. Um, but this is a thing that's really, really galling, I think, for a lot of people. Right now, Tim Davie has defended this. The BBC wants to keep the license fees, or rather, get rid of the license fees for over 75s, which was previously free. There is a compelling argument to be made that license fees in general should be abolished. There's a few things around this. The BBC justifies license fees as a way of funding the organisation. Of course, it needs funding, and it doesn't have advertisements in the same way that other networks do. I do think that the BBC has better quality output than other networks in some areas, documentaries. Um, but here's the problem. When we're in a situation where people are facing prosecution and even jail time for not paying a TV license, yet the top stars are getting a pay bonus, there's something very rotten about that when this is treated like a criminal offence. Now, you could argue people should just pay the fees. It's all very well, though, in my opinion, for someone like David Attenborough, who is very much a BBC insider. You know, he's highly respected. He's one of the most recognised voices in the country. But Attenborough and others have been very vocal in defending the license. But that's easy for them. They're BBC insiders and they're millionaires. You know, for most people, what is it, 100? I think it's 174 a year. Can't remember exactly. 157 pounds a year. Yeah, 157 pounds a year. It's not massive amount, but it's still money. And I just think it's repugnant. I use that term repugnant that people are threatened with jail for not paying it. Yeah, you get violent thugs that escape jail for far worse offences. So at best, I think that should be changed into a civil offence rather than a criminal offence. Now, it's curious that BBC insiders are so aggressive in defending the TV licence and defending prosecution for the TV licence. They're not doing themselves any favours. And I think this is going to breed public resentment that this is an elitist and arrogant organisation that doesn't listen to public concerns. Um, I think it's a very big problem. And I think if Tim Davie doesn't get the public mood right, there's going to be a big backlash. I don't know what form that will take. I don't know if there'll kind of be a campaign for maybe even some sort of civil disobedience, like people just don't pay their licenses. I think it's disgraceful that people are threatened with jail for this. I understand that organisation needs to be funded, but it is clearly bad optics when the top stars are getting paid bonuses whilst they are taking away the license from senior citizens, if the free license that is. I don't think there should be whether or not there should be a license. I can understand, okay, it needs to be funded. I absolutely 100% am against making it a criminal offence not to pay it. I think it's a damn disgrace that people could be threatened with prison for this. I'm sorry for the language, but it makes me angry. And I would like to see the government being very vocal in blowing back against this because most of the public think that is wrong. You know, even people who support the BBC think that it's ridiculous that people are sent to jail for not paying a license. Now, the BBC might say that's only a last resort and it's only in extreme cases. I say even if they don't pay for years in a row, it still shouldn't be a custodial sentence. Give them a hefty fine. Um, just stop the transmission. There's bound to be other ways to handle that other than sending someone to jail. Jail should be for serious crimes against a person, not for offences against a corporation. Um, it smacks of elitism. Um, as for BBC bias, I think that is a real issue. Tim Davie has said he's going to tackle this. It remains to be seen whether he will or not. I think an organisation as big as the BBC is never going to please everyone, but I do feel that what they need to do is stop being so blatantly woke. I mean, I understand the need for diversity. I understand the need to be representative of modern Britain, but in recent years, the political bias has been such that it's just become so obvious, so obvious that the ideology of identity politics is just being injected into absolutely everything. So if you have a production that is all white, it wouldn't even get screened. I think Lawrence Fox raised some important issues about this. He said he would never get employed on the BBC with the views that he has. So it's kind of ironic, actually, when you think about it, that the BBC is pushing for people to be prosecuted and jailed, when in many other areas they take a pretty liberal position on things. So that certainly raises questions. So I don't want to see the BBC totally dismantled. I do think that the BBC has an important part in British culture, and I do think it still has world-class documentaries and output in some areas. But I think they really, really need to reassess their attitude to license fees. Um, if it is to continue, at least drop this absurd idea that if people don't pay a license fee, they are threatened with prosecution. At best, or at worst rather, it should be a civil offence. It absolutely shouldn't be a criminal offence. Someone shouldn't have a criminal record because they haven't paid a fee to a corporation. That should be reserved for crimes against the person, assault, theft, that sort of thing, not paying your TV license. And especially in cases where people barely use the BBC, but they still have to pay a license if they have a TV. It really, really needs to be reassessed. And if Tim Davie doesn't listen to public anger on this, then he and other BBC, uh, top people cannot complain if there is a backlash to the BBC. Um, I think the TV license thing is, they cannot afford to be tone deaf on this. I don't see that as a left wing, right wing issue. I see it as a common sense issue. You cannot prosecute pensioners or anyone else for not paying their TV license whilst defending multimillionaires becoming even richer. It just looks of sheer elitism. So they really, really need to swallow some humble pie and accept that. I mean, so far Tim Davie isn't doing it. If he's defending the scrapping of free TV licenses whilst simultaneously defending a rise in salaries for people who are already wealthy, already paid huge amounts, um, I think he's showing himself to be tone deaf. I think in general the BBC is out of touch with the average British person. I do think that they're a pretty elitist organisation. One thing that's perhaps improved over the years is back in the 50s and 60s, you heard the generic BBC English where everyone was from London and home counties. The BBC has become a bit more regionalised, so perhaps that's one improvement. But I still think they reek of this kind of metropolitan elitism, and I think they're tone deaf to public criticism on that. They need more diverse opinions, which frankly includes maybe some opinions that are less politically correct. Um, but not just that. They really need to understand that the public is not happy about this license situation.